Welcome back, Colts fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for a special edition of the Colts Report with Will Retherford and Sam Frick, their preview of the Colts game in Jacksonville this Sunday. And I said this on the Colts Report this week. 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs was the biggest game of the year. Last week against the Texans, biggest game of the year. And since they lost both of those, that essentially makes this game this week, Sam, the biggest game of the year in Jacksonville, a house of horrors for the Colts. I told you on this week's Colts Reports, I think this is a game the Colts are going to dominate and win going away, 10 to 14 points. But let's get your thoughts, starting with Sam, and then we'll go to Will.
Yeah, we talked about this on our last episode, talking about how big this game in Jacksonville is. And it's been a house of horrors for the past decade plus since Andrew Luck and Chuck Pagano were with the Indianapolis Colts. Ironically, the Jaguars are going back to their throwbacks, so maybe it's a sign of good things to come. Okay, I'm joking about that, but my thing about it is that yes, it is the biggest game of the season for the Colts at this point in the season. We have been put ourselves in the position the last few weeks where we're going to have to go on a little bit of a streak of wins for us to secure a playoff spot at this point, let alone win the AFC South. And to do so, we got to figure out how to overcome these demons of recent years in Jacksonville. This is the biggest game going to Jacksonville in the Indianapolis Colts history, and we talked about this the other night. There's quite a few people in the hot seats. Ballard, Steichen, and Daniel Jones could be next. So this is big for everybody.
I won't go as far to say that this is the biggest game in Colts franchise history. I think there's probably been a few that I would put above that.
Me too.
With that being said, the Colts can win this game. They will not run away with this game. That's not what the Colts do. I envision it to be a slugfest. The weather is supposed to be absolutely atrocious. Monsoon-level conditions, which is just excellent. It's going to be old-school football, and may the best trench game win.
And I would take that with Jonathan Taylor. Like if it's a slugfest between running backs, as good as Travis Etienne is for Jacksonville, give me Jonathan Taylor all night if we can get JT the opportunities to win that game.
In the middle of that offensive line.
I would agree with that. I think it's definitely playing the Colts' strength. With that being said, the Jacksonville Jaguars' strength is also their interior rush defense. They are number one in the league in yards given up. They have yet to have a running back rush for over 70 yards. The problem with games like this, especially if the weather conditions shape up to be what the forecast is calling for right now, is it just neutralizes the playing field. It makes it a coin toss. Who's able to effectively get to their blocks quicker, who can break one open and get a long run. It's probably going to be low scoring. It's going to be gross football. I mean, it's not going to be your traditional sexy air raid spread offense. It's going to be a lot of under center and a lot of physicality. I worry with Taylor's lack of a counterpart. I wish the Colts could establish a little better 1-2 punch for games like this, because it's awfully demanding of your running back to give him 35 carries just on his body. We'll see. This is the Colts are designed to be able to go win games like this now. The challenge is to go in and doing it.
I agree with you, Will. They need a counterpunch. I think what concerns me is I know Daniel Jones is playing, and he's playing through this injury. Trevor Lawrence is not. And that gives them, he's a threat he can a little bit maybe more mobile. Maybe he can handle the field conditions a little bit better. I just wonder what those kind of field conditions do as far as Daniel Jones. And as far as the Colts offensive line, I don't know. I've become a little concerned after watching them the last couple of weeks. I actually think this is an offensive line that has regressed. And I don't think it's as good as it was early in the year. I do think it's regressed some.
Jacksonville's Eric Armstrong, he's questionable right now. I think the consensus is he'll probably play. They have two good edge rushers. I don't know how involved either one of them are in the run game. It's definitely not Josh Hines-Allen's strength for sure. I would say it's not really Trayvon Walker's strength either. I just think it's one of those games where the Colts are just going to have to do enough to win. I don't know what that is. if they need to score 30 points, they're going to have to do it. They're just going to have to do just enough to get through whatever demon that they have in Jacksonville and just come out victorious and keep their season going. This is one of those games where it's like the Colts just simply have to find a way to get the job done, regardless of what the conditions, regardless of what the other team schematically is doing. You got to bite down on your chin guard and take a punch or two.
The question for me is they haven't had a lot of success in Jacksonville. Can they change the tide this weekend? That's the key. For whatever reason, the Jaguars, whether they're good or they're bad, have been a nemesis for the Colts.
The other thing that worries me too is, we talk about Jacksonville's rush defense. Their secondary is pretty decent too. They have a dozen this year. Devin Lloyd with 4 by himself, and Daniel Jones has looked, I don't know about you, Michelle, but Daniel Jones has looked a lot like Daniel Jones of the old in recent weeks. I'm a little bit concerned about his ball handling, taking care of the football, and I'm also worried about some of his decisions of late. I worry if the weather does become a problem to that extent, I worry about the fumbles in this game.
I worried about it a little bit, and I don't care what he says. He's playing through it, and it's not severe broken leg because he wouldn't be out there. But even a bone chip or whatever, there's pain, and I think he's probably trying to avoid taking hits or shots on to that leg, and so I think it has maybe rushed his reads, his progressions a little bit because he's trying to get rid of the football even quicker. And part of that is I'm still a little concerned. I don't know that Steichen has really adjusted some of the offense and some of those, routes to get it out faster for Daniel to make it even easier. Go ahead and do some of those short routes. Michael Pittman is so strong in there, You've got Warren. Take advantage of just a 5-yard quick hitter or up the middle or something. And then that way, that sets it up for maybe hitting Alec Pierce down deep. I think Pierce is having a tremendous year. But I just think that Steichen has got to become his quarterback's even more best friend while he's playing through an injury. Because right now it's their best shot at winning.
That just hits my next question, because I mentioned in the last episode about, JT not being utilized enough, and Colts are 6-0 when JT has 90 some rushing yards in a football game. Part of me wonders, our team's starting to figure out, hey, JT's being used quite a bit on this Colts offense. Let's minimize JT's game and force the Colts to have to adapt. And maybe Steichen's not done a good job of finding that next counterpunch, because right now when you look at the Colts, the offense just seems to lack that creativity. And yes, Daniel Jones having the fibula injury is definitely a legitimate concern. I am not disagreeing with that whatsoever. However, there have been concerns leading up to the news about the fibula injury as well. The offense getting a little stagnant these days with the play calling. I worry about, if we don't get JT more involved offensively, I worry we're going to continue to get exposed again, going to a place that we have struggled over the past several years or so, no matter who's at quarterback for the Colts.
Hey guys, I guarantee this is the only podcast on earth previewing an NFL game with two guys wearing two different minor league hockey team gear.
I love it.
And I gotta say, Sam wins. Sam is the winner in this one. Comets all the way. Nothing against the Fuel, but the Comets are my team. Will.
I absolutely despise that arena. I hate that damn goal horn. It is the most obnoxious thing I've ever heard.
Love it.
Fucking monkey on the screen. It just drives me insane. I was at a game, they were up 6-2 in the third period and lost 7-6. So that's minor league hockey for you in a nutshell. I don't know where you're transitioning to. I would like to add that Jacksonville's defense against tight ends has been really bad. They have given up the second most yards to tight ends so far this season. This is a game you kind of hope Tyler Warren can have that breakout game. With that being said, the Steelers were also a very bad defense against tight ends too, and they kind of took Tyler Warren out of it. I think the Colts, they've been really susceptible to run blitzes. I think teams are really scheming to follow the guards and shoot, where you have Quentin Nelson and Matt Gonzalez pulling, and you've just not seen Braden Smith or Bernhard Raimann be able to slide and fill those gaps in. I think the fullback game with Tyler Warren is going to be really important this week. His ability to be the lead blocker, his ability to be used on both wham blocks, backside blocks will be really important if the Colts want to try to establish a strong running game. I don't think it's going to be advantageous for either team to get forced into playing pass-happy football when it's raining like that. And, Sam, I will also argue that Trevor Lawrence is a very turnover-prone quarterback as well. And I would not say these are conditions that I would love to have him as my guy in there either. So I think it's apples to apples in terms of quarterback play in a game like this. I like Lawrence's legs a little more than Jones right now, but at the end of the day, they both are susceptible to coughing the ball up.
I agree totally. Trevor Lawrence definitely has his issues with turnovers, and I think the news of the weather, it has to be concerning for Jacksonville fans as well, because Lawrence does have his issues with turnovers. But so to me, it's going to be a coin toss. You said it perfectly. If the conditions are going to be like this, it's just going to come down to which team can you have an edge up front and win the battle front, and who can make the fewest mistakes at the end of the day. Because when you have these type of conditions, you're not going to get pretty numbers on a Sunday in a Sunday football game because of Mother Nature kind of doing its own thing and then intervening and causing problems. So we're not going to have the normal football game that we would expect here. So now it's going to come down to which team is going to get the edge and win the margins, if you would.
You guys know that it's going to be Florida sunshine now that you guys are talking about all this rain.
And
our luck's going to be so bad.
Awesome.
We're going to be talking about the storm, and it's just going to be sunshine Sunday.
That would be great. One area that I've picked up on film that I am a little concerned about is the Jaguars have been using Lawrence in the quarterback power game a little more than they had at the beginning of the year, and I'd be interested to see if the Colts are able to adjust to having to have 11 hats on the football. Most of the time, you can kind of wipe your quarterback away and say he's not really going to be a ball carrier unless there's a pressure or you're playing against a Hurts, Lamar Jackson level, Josh Allen type quarterback. If you have to account for 11 in the red zone, especially inside the 5-yard line, I would be concerned to see if the Colts linebackers are going to be able to adjust to that schematically.
Guys, I think 2 words are the big key: field position. If the weather is bad, field position could be the biggest key to the game.
The Colts really need Parker Washington to not play because he might be the best punt returner in the league, and I don't know if it's remotely close. In fact, he is really good, and if he's going to be out, that's a huge advantage for this Colts team because you're taking away their best special teams player without question.
Will mentioned that Parker Washington is questionable. Not only a kick returner, he's become a starting receiver since Travis Hunter's on the IR. Walker Little, their tackle, also questionable. That would be huge. Eric Armstead and Travon Walker also questionable. You would assume at this point in the season, questionable means they're more likely to play. Shane Steichen says Sauce Gardner not likely to play on Sunday. He said he probably will miss a game and could miss another. But it's not what they feared, which was an Achilles injury, and they're being safe with him. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with that. Will and I have talked all year about on the Strictly Biased podcast how talented Jacksonville's receivers are. Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers, been open all year and just can't catch the ball.
Well, Jacoby Myers has been a great addition for them since that deadline. He has become their bona fide one.
Yep, absolutely. Surprisingly. And without Sauce Gardner, it's still a pretty good defensive backfield, but not ideal.
I would say that they have the benefit of having one of the best nickel corners in the league. I really like that. I think you're going to see Kenny Moore in the box an awful lot. Now, Greg, you talk about it. We probably will see Florida sunshine now that Sam and I have talked about how bad the weather's going to be. I don't know who that favors. Probably neither team. I think that these teams are it's a 50-50. Like, they are evenly matched. It just comes down to who can schematically be better, who can not have the costly turnover, who can have better clock management, and like Michelle said, who can execute the field position game better. I just don't see any situation where these two teams are vastly different from each other in terms of skill sets and just talent overall.
I've watched every game, both teams, and Jacksonville is at least a half level worse than the Colts, if not a full level.
Yeah, but they found ways to win.
I understand.
And they now lead the division, so they found more ways to win than the Colts.
I just don't think it's as even as Will thinks.
I mean, you talk about their receivers. I mean, if you're trotting out Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers, and Parker Washington, I'd say that's an awfully good 3-receiver trio to complement the Colts. That's very true. And that's without Travis Hunter, who also would be in that. I think their running backs, neither one of them are even close to Taylor, but the two of them together are much better than Taylor and his, Admir Abdullah, who is going to probably be getting some carries if it's crappy weather.
Part of the reason I think the Colts are winning this game going away is I don't think Jacksonville can take advantage of the Colts' biggest weakness, and that's stopping the run. I don't think Jacksonville's running game's good enough.
I mean, I think you're probably right in terms of just their ability to execute. If it's sunny, just expected Lawrence here. Just expect a 20 of 25 for 280 and 3 touchdowns. And it's just, can the Colts outduel that?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing right here is we got to take Lawrence out of the game in terms of what he does, and we got to get into Lawrence's head early on. And maybe it's the weather, maybe it's just we have the best nickel corner in the league. I don't know what it is, but we got to get Lawrence off his game early for allow us to have a chance to win this game. And we mentioned the field position for Michelle. Special teams are going to be huge. Our kicking game's not been great lately. We're going to need that in this game because if it's a close game, if weather's kind of bad, it's low scoring, special teams, our kicking game are going to be critical if it happens. So that's something to monitor over the course of the game. If both offenses struggle and it's more of a run type of game for both teams, kicking game is going to be critical as well. So that means we're going to have to avoid those offensive holds and false starts as well in these games.
You talked about getting in Lawrence's head, but I think he just looks at his record against the Colts, and he's probably going to feel pretty confident going into that game. I mean, I think it's going to have to take something big to happen early to get into his head because he's going to enter that game confident.
When Trevor Lawrence plays his best, he can play with his legs. When he is running the ball, and it goes back to his days at Clemson, he was an RPO option style quarterback. He was a dual threat with, I would say, more of a pocket passer prototype. If the Colts can pin him in and not let him get out and use his legs early, I think he can really just give the ball up big time. I mean, he'll throw a couple picks that you just look and say, what the hell were you looking at? And the Colts, the safeties have feasted on that. That's where Cam Bynum has been great at reading QBIs. The Colts have it all out in front of them. I absolutely, the Colts can go win this game. They can go win this division. They just have to go do it now.
And let us not forget that the Jacksonville Jaguars are, without question, the dumbest team in the NFL. No question about it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not very disciplined.
No,
they'd
they're going to
be 10-2 if they weren't.
They're going to give you 100 penalty yards. So you got to if they're giving you a touchdown, you got to take advantage of it and use it.
All right, guys, I've been saying it all week. The Colts are going to win this game handily. Give me 26-16 Indianapolis in the rain in South Florida. Well, Central Florida.
North Florida.
Northeast Florida.
This game's being played in Jacksonville. I agree with Will. It's not going to, if the Colts win, it won't be handedly. It'll probably be a one-score game. But same token, I'm going to say I think Jacksonville wins anywhere from a field goal to 10 points. I think it's a 1.5 score game. I think Jacksonville wins. And for me, until the Colts prove that they can get over that stigma or their nemesis, I'm picking Jacksonville, especially at Jacksonville.
I've got 2 scores actually, depending on the weather conditions. If it's ugly, I think it's going to be 23-20 Colts, and if it is clear and 70 degrees and sunny, it's going to be 37-34 Colts.
Colts either way, I like it.
I think so.
Oh man, I want to pick the Colts so badly, but every time I think the Colts are going to beat Jacksonville, they crap the bed every single time. I have to take Jacksonville. I think Daniel Jones plays his best game. JT plays as well as he could. I think this would be the first time the Colts lose when Jonathan Taylor gets 90 or more rushing yards. I'm predicting Jacksonville wins by a point. I'm going to go 31-30, Jacksonville.
Quick bonus segment. I want to start with Sam, then I'm going to go to Michelle, and then to Will. Who wins the Big Ten championship on Saturday?
All right. As you know, I'm not an IU fan. I am a Purdue fan at heart. It is so hard for me to root for Indiana at any sport, let alone football, where Purdue's got their ass kicked every year recently, and especially to IU. But I don't like Ohio State either. So my hope is Indiana wins. But dang, I can't go against Ohio State with all the weapons they have objectively. I'm going to go Buckeyes, not because I don't like IU. It's just Ohio State is really good. I'm going to go Buckeyes by 2 scores.
Ooh, 2 scores, huh? Well, 2 scores would be 10 points. I don't think it's going to be a thumping. I don't think people realize that Indiana they are a lot better than they were a year ago, truthfully.
They're the second best team in the country.
Here's the thing. I haven't picked against them all year, and I'm not going to on Saturday. I'm picking the Hoosiers. Now, if they would have to play Ohio State again in the college football playoff, I'll lose the Big Ten championship to beat Ohio State in the college football playoff. I would do that in a heartbeat because possibly winning a national championship is huge. I think maybe some of their players in some ways, I'm not sure they realize that Indiana truly is better, that their defensive and offensive trenchmen or their lines are much better than they were a year ago. They have more depth. And D'Angelo Pons, he'll be fired up and he's got something to prove too. He loves a challenge and he'll love the challenge of covering Smith.
And Will.
I would like the record to state I have picked against IU one time this entire year. And they played at home against Illinois and won 63-10. This game will be a 3-point game. I think Ohio State will win this one. If they play again, IU will win for the national championship.
And I have Ohio State by a point. I think they're 1-2. I think it comes down to who executes, who makes the big plays.
Go Colts. Please
Go
win
Colts.
this fucking football game.
Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.